If I could return this, I would. It's time for another foundation review. Hi friends, welcome to my hot mess of a YouTube channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the infamous E.L.F Camo CC Cream. When this came out, I was so excited. I was like, ooh, how is that gonna compare to my It Cosmetics CC Cream? You guys know this is my holy grail, my one and only favorite full coverage foundation. To be real, it's been months since I've had this. I got it when it first came out, and I put off this review because it was really difficult to form a true opinion and thought about if I really like this or not, but I finally have come to my conclusion, so I thought it was the right time to put this review out. So I'll give you guys some brief claims on this foundation, and then I'll go into the application process, kind of showing you how I prefer to wear it, and then I'll give you my full ranking on this foundation. This claims to be color correcting, full coverage, a natural finish, so not dewy and not matte, natural. I'll also be doing a brief comparison of the It Cosmetics CC Cream after I show you guys the application process. It's interesting because on the website it says the key ingredients are hyaluronic acid, which helps provide hydration by locking in moisture, resulting in a plumped up bouncy complexion, but it doesn't have that on here. Probably because they couldn't fit the word on here. Niacinamide to help brighten and even out skin tone. Peptides for a more refreshed complexion, and infused with skin-loving collagen. So overall, it's supposed to smooth the appearance of your skin, color correct any issues you got going on your face, protect your skin from the sun, along with some skincare loving benefits, which seems like something that I would truly enjoy. But now I'm going to show you guys how I prefer to apply the foundation. I've tried many different ways to apply this foundation, and there are some ways that I feel are good and some ways are bad. So I'm going to just talk you guys through my personal preferences. So the thing about this foundation is that you need to make sure you moisturize your skin and you have a moisturizer that works for your skin, because if you don't, it is going to look cakey, it's going to cling on those dry patches, and it's not going to look very flattering, honestly. And we have to keep in mind it is a full coverage foundation, and that tends to happen with a lot of full coverage foundations. They tend to over time look a bit cakey, so I always just recommend to use the moisturizer that's best for you. Make sure to, you know, exfoliate and cleanse your skin prior, because if not, this foundation is just not it. So as I let my moisturizer sit on my skin, I do want to mention the types of primers to use with it and the types of primers not to use with it. One of the first ones that I had major issues with is the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. My cat's in the background. This does not work well from my experience with the Camo CC Cream. And the reason I think for that is because in general, the Hydro Grip Primer, depending on the foundation you use, can easily pill, and it definitely will pill with this one. And I think that's because these are both really thick products. The Hydro Grip Primer is a sticky, thick base. It's not the type of primer that's easy to like smooth out. When you try to smooth it out, it's harder because it's sticky and it's a bit skippy. And the same with the Camo CC Cream. It's not the most liquidy serum-like formulation. It's definitely a lot more creamy. So when you put those two together, they just don't work, and it's also uncomfortable to wear them together on your skin because you end up just having a lot of product sitting on your face. So it's not my preference to use these together. My recommendation is to find more of a hydrating primer. One that I really liked using with this was the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer, and although this could just be a moisturizer, I actually feel this helps smooth out my skin. And if you are gonna go with a silicone base, make sure it's really thin, because again, this product is thick and you want a smooth base, but you don't want to add on top of the thickness of this foundation. Now today, what I'm actually gonna do is half of the face, no primer, and the other half of the face, I'm going to use the E.L.F Poreless Putty Primer. The E.L.F Poreless Putty Primer is definitely one of my favorites, so I'm thinking I'll get some good results with this primer, but the thing is, the foundation is thick. Like, that's what I'm stressing here. It's thick, but the good thing about that is it gives you full coverage. So it's kind of like one or the other, you know? And if you want that full coverage, this foundation will give you that for sure. But you have to just be strategic in how you wear it and what products you use with it, which for some could be a con because, you know, for me especially, I kind of like things that are easy and user friendly. I don't really like products that take too much effort, especially for my base. Another tip when using this, I would honestly just start with half a pump. Just take a brush and start in one area, because that's just the easiest way to work with this. And I start with a very, very thin layer because this is a product that a little goes a long way. You're gonna get the full coverage you need. You don't want to go in too thick right away because that will easily give you that cakey look that you don't want. And the reason why I like using a wet sponge with this over a foundation brush is because the product is already full coverage. And if I use a foundation brush, it's going to make it even more full coverage and really pack that on. And at least with a wet sponge, it soaks a little bit of the product up and moistens up the foundation so that it's easier to blend, because I do find, since this is such a thick creamy formulation, it lacks that ease of blend. I mean, I feel like I'm exaggerating. Like, I don't want you guys to think that like it's not blendable at all, because it is, but it's not as blendable as some other formulations. Ooh, see? That cover is really good already, and I'm liking the way it looks. The first few times that I wore this, I absolutely just despised it. I could not stand it, and that's why it took me long to make this video, because I kept having a love-hate relationship with it, and it took me a long time to truly form my opinion on it. I just added a half a pump more onto my hands, and I'm doing the other face. The other half of my face. So I'm just zooming in to show you one layer on this side. Again, this does not have the primer on it. You can still see my scarring, like my hyperpigmentation, but overall the redness is 100% covered. Same here, you can still see my scarring and my hyperpigmentation. Now I'm just gonna do another pump and kind of add it in areas that I feel like need just a bit more coverage. So definitely here. I feel like with the second layer I definitely get more coverage for sure, which is nice because it's buildable and you don't have to apply so much. This is one of those foundations where I actually don't feel the need to add even more concealer on top. I just kind of add more foundation to give me that extra oomph. This is the finish and the coverage that it gives. It looks really good. It's giving me that glass skin glow on camera, but in person it's definitely a lot more matte, and I see it as more of a satin natural finish, but on camera, because the lighting is reflecting off of it, I'm having trouble covering like the darkness around here. But overall, wherever I added extra foundation, it's covered pretty well. So it really looks good upon application, which is nice. And if you follow my suggestions, you'll end up really liking the application of this foundation for sure. This is a foundation that if you have acne prone, textured, hyperpigmented skin, that you will get full coverage from. The finish and the look that you get depends on what you apply and how you prep your skin underneath, because there is a wrong way to prep your skin for this foundation, and there's a bit of a learning curve when you first get it. So that's just up to you to figure out, okay, it works well on my skin with this primer or that primer or with this moisturizer, because that's something that I had to do, and the suggestions that I have work for my skin, but it might not work for yours. So I'm only going to add under eye concealer. I'm using the E.L.F Hydrating Concealer in medium beige, and if you were wondering what I thought about this concealer, I've made a whole drugstore concealer video that I'll link in the description box and in this video for you to watch. So now I'm gonna go in with a setting powder. I'm using the Glossier Wowder. This in particular I like with the foundation because I don't want to completely mattify it. The foundation is already matte and satin enough, and this powder doesn't really mattify your skin. It's just more of a natural finish, and it doesn't change the look of the foundation that you're wearing. So I feel like this would give it a fair shot. Apply that on the rest of my face. I like to just put a thin layer of powder because, again, we're avoiding that cakiness, you know? So here's an extreme zoom in because I wanted to point out the texture. Now that I've powdered it and everything of that sort, I think that it covers up my acne scars well enough, definitely better than other foundations. And as of right now, I don't really think it's really enhancing or clinging on to my texture. It's definitely not hiding my texture, but it's also not making it look worse, which is a good sign and a good thing. Just in case you guys have texture, I wanted to point that out. Try to use the E.L.F products that I had, so the E.L.F concealer, the E.L.F Putty Primer. For blush, I use the Primer Infused blush from E.L.F, which is my favorite, and it always has a really nice finish. So I didn't do a cream blush on top of this foundation just because, again, like if I put cream on top of a thick foundation, there's a high chance it's going to look a little bit too cakey and a little bit too thick. As for the E.L.F Primey powder, that's like such a tongue twister. But as for the E.L.F Putty Primer side, I don't notice a difference. I think the application was smooth and I didn't have an issue with pilling with this. The foundation went on just as well as it did on my moisturized bare skin. I did want to give a quick comparison of this to the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. Now, the IT Cosmetics CC Cream has been my all-time favorite. You guys know this is my holy grail. I've purchased like 3 bottles of this already, so I do have a bit of a bias. One of the first things I want to mention that is very different between the two is that the IT Cosmetics one is much dewier and much more moisturizing. This is not that. Although it mentions that it has niacinamide, this is advertised and marketed to be a hydrating serum, while this is marketed to have collagen, peptides, and niacinamide. So the ingredients in the E.L.F Cosmetics one can be technically anti-aging, and it's kind of insinuating that, but it's not hydrating, and the finishes are just 2 completely different finishes. So if you are a person who wants something more hydrating, the original IT Cosmetics one might be more for you. IT Cosmetics does have a matte version, but I've never tried that, so I don't know exactly how they compare, but I feel like that would be more of a comparison because it seems to be marketed with the same finish. The IT Cosmetics one has SPF 50, the Camo CC Cream has SPF 30, so that's already a major difference. And another difference in the sunscreen is that the IT Cosmetics one has 9% titanium dioxide and 6.3% zinc oxide. The E.L.F one has 7.5% octinoxate. What the hell, man? These words. 4.4% titanium dioxide and wow, that's a lot of zinc oxide. So 13.7% zinc oxide. And I think that's probably why this is a thicker formulation. Correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of the times when I wear a sunscreen with a lot of zinc oxide, the formulation tends to be like much thicker and harder to blend onto my skin, which could be a major reason why this is creamier and a little bit more lightweight than the E.L.F one. So although these look like they're supposed to be the same, I think they're more alternatives rather than dupes of each other. The Camo CC Cream also is much thicker in formulation, and the application is just different in comparison to the IT Cosmetics one. When I use the IT Cosmetics one, I feel when I blend it in, I could blend it in with my hands, I can blend it in with a brush, I can blend it in with a sponge, and it's so easy and smooth to just apply onto my skin. It almost is like a thicker moisturizer, but this one doesn't feel like that. It actually feels more like the sunscreen that I usually use. Now to my foundation ranking. So based on claims, honestly, I would rank this a 5 out of 5 because it does everything that it claims. Although the con is that it's thick and hard to blend, it doesn't claim to be easy to blend and thin. Coverage wise, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 too, because it claims that it's full coverage and it 100% is full coverage. Does it cover everything though that I have? No, but in comparison to other full coverage foundations on the market, this one is true to its claim. Texture and feel, I would honestly rank it a 2 out of 5, and that's just because it's not the texture and feel that I like for my foundation. The usability, like the ease of use, again, 2 out of 5, because I just feel like if it's easy to use, I can use any foundation brush, any sponge, I can use my hands to blend it out. I don't have to worry about prepping my skin. I don't have to worry about using a certain type of primer. I could use whatever I want, and that for me would be a 5 out of 5. But because I couldn't do that with this foundation, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because there's a learning curve to it. Ooh, the price? Okay, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. This is low cost in comparison to other CC creams on the market, but in E.L.F world, this was actually one of their priciest foundation products, so I have to give it a 3 out of 5 because it's still pricey for E.L.F, but also it's competitive to other CC creams in the drugstore market, and of course it is a drugstore product, so it is of a lower cost than high-end makeup. Color range. Ooh, okay, I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 5 for color range. The reason why I'm saying that is because I think that just because a brand launches like 50 foundation shades doesn't mean they are doing it well, right? I feel like when I look at E.L.F's foundation shades and even concealer shades, I'm confused. Like, they break it down by light, medium, tan, dark, deep, but when you look at the swatches, it's confusing. Like, it doesn't seem like it's in order of light to dark, and the undertones are very weird. It'll say it has a neutral undertone, but then you'll get a foundation that ends up being warm, or you get a foundation that's a warm undertone and you get a foundation that's more neutral, and I find that really confusing. So overall, I think this foundation could work for some people, could not work for others. And for my actual opinion, and if I truly think this is a foundation that's gonna stay in my collection, it's not. It's not. If I could return this, I would, because yes, the finish looks nice and everything, but I just didn't like working with it. I hated that I had to try so many different ways to make it work, and even when I finally made it work, I just think it's just too much effort for my beauty routine. So in comparison to the rest of my makeup collection, it just doesn't have a place, and I don't really reach for it as often now that I've formed an opinion on it. So that is my final thoughts on this foundation. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried it or if you're looking forward to trying it, because I would like to know if you have the same issues as me. I'm just curious. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if it was helpful. Subscribe if you're new to my channel, and as always, I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye!